I think that I am partially A, because it is such a part of my life now, but B, like I think that so many of the problems that go on, especially right now, are so wrapped up in that word. And I think it should be the opposite with the word God. You know, God should be a uniting word. It should be a word where we say to each other out of love and finding common ground and unity. And I think instead, especially, God's been politicized so much. You know, you and I are both the generation where we watched 9/11 happen. And, you know, that was done in the name of someone's God, you know? And, you know, people use God to get votes or to get people not to vote for someone. And people really get on a moral high ground with the word God. And they think I'm better than you because God loves me and not you. And God condemns you for that. And it's just, if you're truly in connection with the Spirit, I believe you'd only use the word God for good. You know, you wouldn't terrorize people with God. You wouldn't condemn people with God. You wouldn't shut people out in the name of God. I can get all gay about it, like, you know, the bakery that refused to bake a wedding cake for like a lesbian couple, you know, because of God. How is that God? And so,
Well,
you know, I do, sorry to interrupt you. I do always use the word universe, but to some people, they're not there to understand or really embrace that word yet. So I do go back to God because at its simplicity, it should mean good. It should mean love in my viewpoint.
one thing that comes up is how we talked about in our conversation last week, how like the narrative with the media like sometimes further separates people because it's showing the extreme things, because the things that make it to the news and to mainstream and get covered, you know, are the most extreme things that are going to get viewership and money and all of those things. And so I do feel like, of course, like a lot of the ways that most of us have experienced organized religion tends to be in the most extreme way. Because I know that you and I also know so many people that are Christian, Catholic, Muslim, that are like so solid in their faith that are like none of these
Oh,
other things. And I think that that's sort of like the interesting thing to me. I even knew someone that was like a fellow coach that was reading this book Unchristian, and I was just like, what is this book that she's reading? Because I knew that she was just this like very devout Christian person, and the whole book was actually written by somebody of the Christian faith that was saying that like when we get on our spiritual high top and like that we like kind of we sort of like preach to people when we tell them where they're wrong, which is like typically like not necessarily of like the Christian faith, that it really turns people off, that it turns the younger generations off from religion because they've had these experiences with other people that tend to be pretty negative most of the time, where they're sort of like saying one thing and then like acting in another way. And that comes up for me. Yeah.
and I mean, I to clarify, I do know a lot of beautiful people that proclaim themselves Christian that are so loving to me in the central part of my life, and same with, you know, Catholicism. But also, the media does like to exacerbate everything. But a lot of these things I'm talking about are personal, quiet things that have happened in my life with religion, and it's not
Yeah.
the media. It's how maybe the media plays a part in how people perceive the rights and wrongs of people and how God feels about them. But these are quiet things that have happened to me in my own life. You know,
Yeah.
I'm, and I don't always want to go back to like the gay thing, but that is, you know, who I am in this life.
Yeah, of
And,
course.
you know, like growing up in Orange County, you know, and I'm so glad things have improved slightly. You know, let's not overplay it. It hasn't improved greatly. It's improved slightly because of a lot of brave people. But growing up in Orange County, every day I would be called fag at least 5 to 6 times a day, at least. And, you know, people would always tell me, like, you know, God hates you. You're disgusting. Like, you need to find Jesus. Like, oh my God, you're gay. How gross, you know? And these are things that were stipulated to them by religion and by churches. I don't think anyone naturally, if they're allowed to free think, would think that about homosexuals. Or I don't think that they would naturally think that about someone of a different skin color, or it doesn't come naturally to us. These are programmed into us
Yes.
to separate instead of unite, you know. And
And the gay pastor, going back to the gay pastor from Queer Eye, how he was talking about that it's most people's like these specific people, how they interpreted texts, religious texts of the Bible. And he was like, no one ever said that God hates gay people. He's like, it's this specific word. And if you like actually go in and do like the research, like, I think that's really interesting because when you listen to the Bible, like it's kind of like reading Shakespeare where it's like very confusing and you feel like you rely on somebody else who isn't Jesus or Christ or God to interpret it. And I feel like it's the interpretation, most of it, that's like getting it really wrong.